Hello and welcome to Spindle TV. How are you guys and girls doing this evening? My name is Laney Shaughnessy. I'm going to be your host for this evening. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry about last week. I was at a show up in Georgia at the Georgia's Woodworkers Guild, the Woodworking Guild of Georgia in Atlanta, Georgia, and doing a small little presentation up there. And that took me away from you guys and girls last week, so we're doing it this week. I didn't get a chance to put out a notice. I should have. I got to get better about that stuff for you guys and girls. But hopefully we'll have a good evening this evening. Now, tonight's class isn't going to apply to everyone because it is an Aspire type project. And many people have, the Vectric V-Carve Desktop or Vectric V-Carve Pro. However, the first part of tonight's class, we're going to be obtaining a vector file. We're going to purchase a vector file and have it downloaded, extract it. We're going to import it into the software. And then we're going to clean up that vector and get it ready for either tool pathing or modeling or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, some of the steps, other than the modeling aspect of it, can be done or, is usually done in Desktop or Pro when you're just, obtaining a vector to create V-carves and things like that. So, it should apply to everybody. And it hopefully will be beneficial to you because we're going to literally start to finish this model project, from a vector to hopefully a decent looking model. Now, this project was inspired by a class I had with a one-on-one class. I do one-on-one Vectric training for folks that subscribe. And this is a project that I did on a private class. And I thought, man, this is such a great project to show modeling and Aspire. I wanted to share it with you all. So hello, Kevin Wilkinson, sorry, I always say Wilkerson, I don't know why, but Wilkinson, how you doing? And Jeff Smith, Ronnie Probert, and Bob and Roger and Brooks. Hey Brooks, how you doing? Gene, how you going? So like I said, we might have a small crowd tonight, but stick around, and it's going to be a two-parter because this project does take some time to build up into the model and all. So we're going to have part one tonight. We'll get as far as we can get without extending too long, and then we will finish up. And I'll take a vote or a poll from you guys if you want to finish up, in 2 weeks when we have our next class, or if you want to jump and do it next week, next Tuesday. Coming up to wrap up the project. Who knows? We'll see. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and get over to channel. Let's see. Bear with me just a moment. I'm absolutely super stoked that my A10 Mini control window is still working with you guys and girls, because for some reason it is closed down. There we go. We are on the air. Okay, let's get over to camera 2. And let's get me down to the bottom left corner. All right, let's get, there we go. All right, like I said, we're going to be working in Vectric Aspire. Now, since I am building a model, I want to work or operate in a very high and extremely high resolution because the resolution, the modeling resolution, if my model's pixeled in any way, that pixelation will translate over to the quality of the finished cut. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key before I click on create a new file. And what that will do is it will activate the additional model resolution features here that aren't normally shown up. And if I didn't do that at the beginning, I could always go back and do that after. What I mean by that, let's say that I had set up a standard resolution and I wanted to go back and adjust it before I start modeling, not right in the middle of my modeling, but I could come back to this icon here, which is the set job dimensions and origin. I could hold the Shift key down and open it up from here, and I would get those features as well. All right, so we can access that. I like to do it right from the get-go, and you know, to make sure that we get things going. All right, so for tonight's class, this model is going to be of size. It's going to be kind of a roundish model. It'll be a badge type model, just as an example. It's going to be 24 inches by 24 inches, and I'm going to have my material at 1.5 inches thick. And I'm going to reference off the material surface in the waist areas, and I'll start from the center. It doesn't matter where your XY origin, your datum position is and everything with this project, but this is what my particular setup here is for tonight. And our model resolution, I'm going to set that to the extremely high. I do not need to go to the maximum of this. I don't need to go to the maximum resolution here. What I do need is I want to be above the high resolution. I want to be at least extremely high. I don't necessarily need to be at maximum. When I am creating models that I'm selling and stuff, you know, for digital STL models that I sell, then I work in the maximum, which is 16,000 pixels. But for tonight, I'm going to work with 16 million pixels, not 1,000, 16 million pixels points. Tonight I'm going to work with the extremely high resolution, which is 8 million points. So we're going to set that up and we're going to click OK. Now, for this model, for the model that I'm going to be creating, I had to obtain a vector. Now, the vector that I purchased is in a folder called New Folder. That was the download and everything. But it was from Etsy. It was $8, you know, for the digital download. And it comes as a zip folder. So this is the zip folder that we're in here. The first thing I'm going to do is extract those files. And in this case, I'm going to go, I'll just go 3D model class 1, and I'll hit extract. And that's going to unzip that file, and it's going to bring me into my unzip folder. And in here, there are 4 different file types. So let's open up the PNG version of this here, physically here, so we can see what we are working with. And of course, in the PNG version, it's going to have a black background, so no one's ever going to see that. There we go. Isn't that wonderful? We'll import it in just a moment. But there's a DXF, there's an SVG, and there's an AI, Adobe Illustrator version, and then there's a PNG. Now, any one of these file formats are importable into the Vectric software, Desktop Pro or Aspire. And the file that I typically work with is the DXF, but any one of the 4 will be fine, except for we're not going to work with the PNG on this. We already have vectors. AI is a vector file, DXF is a vector file, SVG is a vector file. PNG is a pixeled image. I'm not tracing that image to create a vector when I already have 3 vector files already created, right? So we're not going to be working with the PNGs. You could use that for preview purposes, but as we saw, the preview wasn't the greatest to begin with. So that's my files that I'm going to be working with. Now, we're never going to open a file. We're going to import the file. The reason why we don't open a file is because when we open a file, it opens with all the file's issues. It's offsets and things like that. Wherever that creator of the file created their project, in whatever workspace that they created it in, if it's offset from our X, Y, and datum and everything, that offset is created within the software. What I mean by that is, let me show you an example of that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go into the download, come into our class file, and I'm going to open the DXF file. And I'm going to open with the Aspire software, and it's going to open at whatever size the creator created it, whether they created it in inches or millimeters. In this case, 14 by 13. And notice right here. So if we look at the XY datum, my 00, which is up here in this top right corner, notice that my material and everything for this file is offset by 0.477 on the X and 15.6951 on the Y. Now, let's say that I'm looking at my red dot here. I'm not paying any attention to what I just did, and I go through and I clean this up and I do a V-carve or whatever. I come in and create my tool path, save my tool path. I go to my machine and I go to zero out my X and Y and on the bottom left corner, and I get ready to hit start, and I hit start, and all of a sudden my machine is going to raise up to its safe height, and then it's going to start booking it to 15.6951 inches, 0.477 inches, and it's going to either crash my machine or be way off the material and screw up this nice piece of wood I have, because I'm actually, my datum, my start point is here, but I've zeroed out on the bottom of my board. And so it's going to continue downward 15 inches from there, down here, and over 4.77 inches because of that offset. And I'm going to be like, whoa, what happened? Oh my God, what's going on and everything? I'm going to come back and try to figure it out, not paying any attention to my job setup. I'm just going to be sitting there looking and wondering what in the world's going on? What is, why is everything so crazy? And then finally, I'll figure it out and find that offset, uncheck it, and lo and behold, recalculate all the tool paths and everything is fine. By that time, I've either crashed my machine, screwed up a nice piece of wood, or whatever, right? Or I might have been smart and hit the E-stop before before any of that stuff happened, right? So that's what we don't want to do. What we do want to do is we want to set up a job. In this case, I've got a job set up here that's 24 inches by 24 inches by 1.5 inches thick. I'm starting at the 0 for the XY datum in the center of my material, and I'm touching off on the material surface. I set OK to set that job set up, and I'm going to import the vector of this design into my project. So when I come in here and I import that DXF file, it's going to import, and you see where it imports? It imports down here, right off the board. That's why, it's never going to land perfectly in the middle. That's where the creator created that file. It's going to be up to me to align that to the center of my material and then go from there, right? So we want to import. That way we don't create these offsets and ungodly screw-ups and everything that, those problems. We don't bring those problems in, right? And all that. So keep that in mind. And give me a thumbs up if that was a good tip and you found that very helpful, because that's happened to you before, and it was because of the darn offset, because you opened the file instead of imported it in. All right. Now, right now, this vector file is 14 inches by 13 inches. We're going to go ahead and size it up a little bit on our project board here. And we're going to go in and start cleaning up. But what I want to do first is I want to pull up an actual badge, an actual, like the real state of Texas badge that this vector is kind of based off of. Let me grab that real quick. I should have been multi-prepared, but I wasn't. State of Texas Sheriff badge. Go to images. And let's be a little bit more specific. Give me just a second. Hidalgo. H-I-L-D. H-I-D. Oh my God, Laney, learn how to spell there, buddy boy. H-I-D-A-L-G-O County. All right, awesome. Okay, so let's see if I can get a clear image. Which one's going to be the clearest of the two? None of those bad boys. Give me just a moment, and I'll pull it over on the screen. Looks like I'm just going to be dealing with this one. Open a new tab. Nope, not that one. Open a new tab. Are you kidding me? Hold on a minute there, Hoss. Ha! All right, we'll do this one. That'll work. Let's get that over here on the board. Okay. So what we have, and I don't, let me actually save image as, and let me save it into my class folder. And then wonderful. Okay. All right. Sorry about that little delay. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so what we're going to notice here, and I wish I could turn this thing around, all that stuff, but the little decorative design. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more where it's not too blurry. All right, so the little swirly swirl designs, those are slightly raised here. The badge actually goes under the ring where it says Hidalgo, which we're going to change the text and stuff for tonight's class. But the star is raised. All of those things, we have to take in mind when we are doing something like this. And let me bring this back down to a reasonable size and everything. What we want to make sure of is when we go to build these parts and everything, when we go to build these shapes, if you will, on this little decorative and all, it's got to be a closed vector, right? So one of the things that we're going to be having to deal with, and this is going to be part of our cleanup, we're going to do this now, this will be our first step for us, is we got to get the vectors ready and everything. But one of the things is the vector, the way it's drawn, these guys right here are not, closed vectors properly. They're not closed properly because we have to build a shape inside of these little areas where my mouse is tracing here. And right now, if I were to build a shape on this, it would actually build it opposite of that. It would build the shape around those areas because of the way the vector is connected to itself. So we've got some cleanup to do prior to, before we can start modeling, so that everything comes out true to form, true to the design and stuff. So let's, I am going to, for the text and everything, I'm going to get rid of it. And let's put some text in there. Okay, I'm going to add some text. I'm just going to add the word county or something and everything. So it's just kind of a generic, design and not, specific as far as that goes. And what I want to do here is I want to go into node editing mode. And I'm going to cut the vector down here on this corner of this arch. And I'm going to cut it over here as well. And on that vector, I'm going to take a measurement from a vertical measurement straight up and down from the top arc. Let's try that again. From the top arc to the bottom arc. And that measurement is 1.78 inches. We'll call it 1.78. So I'm going to take my arch here and I'm going to offset it outward. 1.78 divided by 2 equals, and I went the wrong direction. I'm going to go inward because of that. And I want to I'm creating a center line, a center arc. Now when I come in and add my text, and I'm just going to go county. The text that I'm going to use tonight is going to be an Arial bold, just a straight up Arial bold. And I'm going to select that text. Let's move it over here so everybody can see it. I'm going to move that there and this here. And I'm going to come over to the text on a curve tool. And I want to be on the curve. I want to scale to fit the curve. Not that big, right? We're going to reduce the scaling down quite a bit. But I want to increase the spacing of the letters as well. I want to be in the middle and wrapping to the curve. So let's come in here. And let's go, we'll go 63%, 65%. 65% looks good to me. All right. So that's going to be my county there. And, I could put any kind of text or anything there, but I'll just put the word county. And then what I need to do is I just created an open vector by, cutting it from the other vector there, So I want to go back into the join tool. And those two vectors that I have selected here on the screen, I want to join them back to one closed vector. Okay, so that little lesson was, how to curve your text to follow a curve if you ever have to do that. All right, now let's go in and look at what we have here. So on our star, if you remember, we have our circle and the stars sitting on top of it. So number one, we need to create a foundation. We're going to be modeling. So we need our vector for our foundation, and that's going to create the base of what we're going to be building up upon. Okay? And then give me just a second before I go to number 2. Kurt, how much of the design can be done with VCarve Pro? all of the vector work and the V-carve setup and all of that stuff, anything but modeling. When we get to everything I'm doing now can be done with V-carve Pro. But when it comes to building the model, the three-dimensional model, the model, we will not be able to do that with V-carve Pro. It's going to require Aspire. And what I'm referring to when I say building the 3D model, I'm referring to the three-dimensional model that we're going to be building, which basically, you know, looks like this and everything. So that three-dimensional model that we're going to be building, and that's going to be Aspire. You won't be able to do that with V-carve Pro. Okay, so now getting back to what I was saying, number one, we got to build our foundation, and then number two, all of the components that we're going to be building up on top of this foundation, we have to make sure that we have the vectors for them. Now, right out of the gate, you're not going to know if you have all of the vectors that you need. As you're stumbling along and building all of the parts, you're going to come across like, oh, I have to build this shape up, but it's not building like I want it to, because either the vector is created incorrectly, or it needs to be, you know, redrawn in a way. It needs to be created because it doesn't exist. The vector that you need doesn't exist, and we have a couple of those. And so I'm going to show you all of that stuff as we go through and model and everything. Okay, and let's get into that here. So the first things first is this badge. In reality, the lower part of the star here is sitting on top of this outer ring, and then the upper part goes under that ring to here, right? So the ring covers the top of that, just like you see in the vector, right? We have to build the model so it fades and does the same thing, right? So, but we got to build our shape for here, and we got to build our shape for here, but nothing is connected that we need. These things, again, when you're just first start modeling, you're not going to notice them. You're not going to be able to open the file and go, oh, that's what I'm missing. You know, you're going to start creating the shape, you know, based on what you've learned, and you're going to be like, oh, I don't have that vector. What do I do? And you're going to have to go back and create it. I'm just giving you some advanced view of the things that we're going to need right up front to clean up the vectors, and then we're going to build our model after that. I could go with the approach where we just start building the model and then repair the vectors as needed. You guys and girls can vote if you want to go that route, and you know, let me know. And Kool-Aid, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that, man. You don't know how much I appreciate that, but thank you. And to answer your question, hey, Lainey, does anyone have a problem with the newest Aspire software? Won't open 3D models, just keeps loading and locks up. Have been talking with Vectric and no luck yet. I am in 11.506. You're talking about, you know, I don't know what version you have, but I have not run into that problem where importing a model is become an issue. A lot of it has to, your Aspire, V-carve Pro, V-carve Desktop, they are CPU heavy. The newer software has kind of helped, they're starting to work where they start to work with the cores a little bit better on the CPU and a little bit more with the graphics and everything. So check out what's new in version 11.5 and see those new features, how it starts to utilize the graphics card a little bit more. But it's still very CPU heavy. And that lockup where nothing happens at all, it's a big file, right? I have files. I have 3D model files that take, I could sit there for hours and they you know, before they open up because they're just big model files, lots of triangulation, and it just takes forever to open. Right? So it has to do with the file. Okay, let's start off. I will build the foundation so you can see what I'm referring to, and then we're going to go in and clean up the vectors that we need to clean up. So for the foundation, it's always 99.9% of the time, in my opinion, it's always going to be the very most outside vector The outside boundary is going to be our foundation vector. And I'm going to split my view here so you can see the view over here. And we're going to go into the modeling tab and I'm going to create a shape. Now I want this badge to have a slight curvature to it. And I don't want to be a big dome, like a big dome or anything. I want to have the just a small curve to it, just a small bend to it. For me, 15% or 15 degrees of dome or curve is a good subtle curve. So that's, you're going to see when I'm creating the curves and things, I'm going to be working between 10 degrees and 15 degrees. In some cases, depending on, you know, their need or requirement, I might jump up to 22.5 degrees. But for the most part, tonight we're going to stick with about 10 to 15 degrees and everything, just a nice subtleness to it. So let's create a curved profile. That's this up here. The curved profile, we're going to go 15 degrees. And on a base height, that is, I'll show you when the model gets built, but you have your profile height, your shape height is what it's called. And that's from where the model curve starts and where it ends. And then underneath that, you're going to have straight meat, the thickness and everything. And that's base meat. Anything under our curved profile is base meat. And so for our base meat here, I'm going to go 1/4 inch. And I'm going to have no limit. I do not want that 15 degrees to be limited at all on the curve. And I want this to be a component of an add, just an add. It's my initial one. And this is going to be my base. I can also, you know, call it my foundation. I don't care what you call it, but it's your base. Okay. All right. So when we click apply, that's going to create the foundation. And I'm in a high resolution, so it's going to take some time to build these parts up and stuff and everything as we go, because of number one, the size of this project, and number two, the resolution that I'm in. I'm in an extremely high resolution for clarity of the model when it gets created. So we're at 36% on building this simple shape. 43%. And I might have to turn down the resolution if the class takes too long. But let's see, as we're waiting for that to happen, we're going to say, Sylvia Klossman says, I prefer to keep going with fixing the vectors and then build the model. Great, good, exactly. And from those who don't have Aspire, I'd prefer that you do all the 2D stuff first as you intended. Exactly, and that's good. That's the approach I want. What I'm doing right now is I'm building the foundation, just the foundation. We're not doing any other modeling other than that, just so you can see the outline of the things that we're going to be building upon. Okay? And, Sylvia and Bob, good input. So let's get this foundation showing here, and then we'll go back to the vectors. All right. So if I turn this to the side and I zoom in, this curved profile from the top edge of the material all the way over to the dome to the other side, right? That's our 15-degree shape height. And then all of the straight meat from the top here down, that is the base height. Okay? So the base, in this case, is 1/4 inch thick. And then on top of the base, the shape gets built. And again, it's just a very subtle 15-degree curve. That's our foundation. Okay? Now, let's close that out. And I'm going to turn off the foundation here for a minute so we get back to a clean screen. And I'm going to, I've got it, it's there. I just got it invisible, right? So it's there and everything. I'm just turning it off for right now for visual purposes. All right, we're going to maximize the screen back up to here, and we're going to continue on. Now, for this, the next step would be the actual star. The actual star here and everything that sits on top of this ring. So we're going to have a ring. These parts right here. So there's 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 5 actually, 4, and 5. Those are going to get cut through. They're going to get cut out and cut through. They're hollow, you know, and everything. And so the star sits on top of this kind of ring, except for where it goes under the ring there. And what I don't have, if you look very closely, my star, I don't actually have a star vector. I have a vector that is cut off right here and then comes around, but it doesn't actually connect to make the star. I don't have the star, so how am I expected to build that shape up if I don't have the vector for it, right? So this is where layers, we're going to work with layers, comes in. We're going to come in and create a new layer, and this is going to be our star, main star, we'll call it that, our main star vector. And we're going to take our entire design and we're going to copy it to that layer. We're going to put a copy of it on that layer. We're going to come back in, wait for it, get that white screen of death, so I'm going to type in save here in just a second. Let that catch up to itself. Let me go up here and save this design because it's a big file and lots of vectors to deal with. So let's go to save as, and in tonight's class we will call this our class 1 3D model, class 1 part 1, and hit save. Okay, so now what you will see, let that save, is we have our level layer 1. That's our default layer that always gets created when you start a new job, and we have a new layer that we just created called main star vector. And then also there's a layer 0, and layer 0 is the layer name of the vector file that we actually imported. So the original star was imported into, you know, that layer 0. So if I turn off our main star, the copy we just made, and I turn off the original layer 0, that's the county that I put in there, and layer 1 is the rest of the design, right? So we're going to turn off layer 1 and layer 0, and we're going to put in our main star vector, and I'm going to give it a different color. I'm going to go red, and hopefully y'all can see that. And what my goal is, make sure that layer is active. Everything I want to do from this point, from this moment on, right now, for what I'm doing just to get this star, I need to be in that layer. I can't be in layer 1, I can't be in layer 0, or any other layers. I got to be in this layer. Otherwise, it starts mixing, mashing, and all that stuff, and it becomes a nightmare to try to clean up. So I want to make sure I can read the layer here, and I also want to make sure it's bold when I'm looking at it in this box. The letters are bold. That means it's active, okay? And what I'm going to do now is a little bit of node editing. All right, so on node editing, we're going to go into here, and what I've got to do is I'm going to be connecting, you know, from here to over here on my star. So I don't necessarily need this line. It's a straight line, so I can skip the one in the middle that's selected right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and right on this corner, get to that corner, I'm going to cut the vector there, cut that line, and over here on this outside corner, zoom, 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 get yourself zoomed in, get right on that last node, and I'm going to cut the vector there. I'm going to follow this vector around. I don't care which way you go. Go one way or the other. It doesn't matter what direction. Just know where you're going. And I'm going to follow this vector around to here, to this side, right? Zoom in, get yourself zoomed in, and cut that vector. Now that's also going to be a straight line that's going to connect to here. Now think of here, when I say here, think of this being the inside corner of that star, you know? The inside corner of the star, the sides of it, like the, you know, I don't have a very thin waist, but that's the thin waist of the star there, if you will. All right, so that's what we're connecting to. So let's go to the very corner of this one and cut that vector. Okay, now follow my vector around to the next point. We're going to do all the points the same way. So now if you wanted to, if everything else was a distraction to you and you just want to focus on the star, you can go in and delete some of the other stuff. But I say just focus on what you're working on. After we do all of our cuts and all, then we'll delete it out of there. So the only thing that we're left with is the star. But if you're like, man, I'm kind of getting lost and everything, we're not dealing with any of these little flourishes at the moment. We could get rid of them. You know, we're not dealing with the word sheriff or the county or the middle or these circles in the center. We could get rid of them. We could delete things if we don't need, if they're in our way, right? So I'm just saying that. I'm not saying do it, but if you need to, just as long as you don't delete the vectors you're actually trying to connect and work with, you're fine. All right, so coming down here to our next point, get zoomed in. Make sure you are on that corner point, okay? Roll it in, zoom it in. I have a mouse with a roller wheel on it. Put your mouse wherever your point of your mouse is, where you're rolling into that point, it's going to zoom in to wherever your mouse point is. So I'm going to cut that vector there. I'm going to follow that, okay? So this line here is going to connect to this line right up here. So we're going to zoom into this corner, get in there, and cut that vector. Now once I get, let me get around to the points and then I'll show you what we actually cut and we'll get rid of what we don't have. But let's go follow that vector around to this side, this point. And this is where the cut the vector, don't delete. This is where, you know, the time consuming stuff comes in. Now, here, the star goes up, it connects to that line, and then it comes around and then connects down here. So that's going to be the star. It's got this little curve to it. We're not going up past this banner. We do not go up past the banner. We're creating the outer profile here. So we're going around the banner. That's this curve right here and everything. So on here and all, I'll end up showing you as we get into it. We're going to come off just probably about the middle here. We're going to make a new curve, and it's going to be required for this, but you'll see. I don't want to get too ahead. I don't want to confuse you. All right, let's go over here and let's cut the vector. Zoom, 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 zoom. Get into that corner and cut the vector. Up here at this top corner, get into that corner. Cut it. Actually, undo that. Control Z. I don't need to cut that one. It's got to go over to here, and I got to cut it on this side. Don't cut it up at the top. Don't need to cut it at the top. Control Z is undo. I undid that cut. Cut that vector there, and that leads into this point. Again, I'm not worried about this line. It's a straight line, so I can connect a straight line to point A to point B. I don't need these middle, right? So that's why I'm coming. That's why I'm jumping past this line, and I'm cutting it on the corners of the points. Cut the vector there, and so we're coming around now. We're coming around. Let's come in here. Get zoomed in. Cut that vector. Now this one comes up and connects up here. Right on that green one. Cut that vector. And around to this point. Get in on those corners. You're going to hear me say that over and over again until we get through all 5 points. And then this is going to connect over to here. Get in there. Cut that vector. All right, so we have got one more point to go. We're getting there. We're getting there. Come around to this one. We're almost there. Cut the vector. That's going to connect over to here. Cut the vector. And that is going to come up and around. That is going to come up and around to here. Zoom in and cut the vector. All right, and now this one is kind of all by itself. It doesn't connect to anything except for kind of itself, right? So we're going to still cut that free. Zoom in and right click and cut the vector. Stick with me. We're almost there. Come over to this side. Get in that corner and cut the vector. All right. Now, we're going to delete. Let's go through and get rid of things. So this line right here, it's not the star, right? Gone. This inner vector right here, it's not the star, gone. The word county, gone. This vector here, gone. All of our outer stuff, we can work our way out, and then the inner stuff here, you can cut and get rid of. Right, gone. Leaving our inside lines for our inside hips, right? You know what I mean? And they connect to the corners and stuff. Down here, outside line, we just cut it loose, gone. This ribbon here, get rid of that. The word county there. Over here, outside vector gone. Get rid of these leaves. And remember now, this is not your original. This is a copy. Do not do this to your original, because then you have nothing to, you know, for the rest of the model, right? All right, so now this vector right here is cut free, right? And over here, this one on this corner needs to be cut. Zoom, 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 zoom. Get in there as tight as you can. Cut that vector. And that arch goes away. Delete that. All right, now let's get rid of everything that's not our lines. So in the middle here, I'm going to select all this middle stuff and hit delete. Be cautious of what you're deleting. Make sure it's not your outside lines. Now the outside lines are our stars. I'm going to keep this for a minute. You'll see how I'm going to use that in a second. But we're going to get rid of all of this miscellaneous junk. Go through and delete this stuff. All these little bubbles and things. And the only thing that I don't want to delete again are my lines, right? So anything inside of those lines, I can get rid of. Delete. Delete. So now I can go through and start being selective. Make sure I turn off what I don't want to delete so I can be a little bit faster about it. Hold that shift key, turn off what I don't want to delete and everything. And as long as what I'm trying to select is not 100% in my selection window when I draw it from left to right, then it's not going to select it. Okay, now, the reason why I'm keeping these things up here is because this part has to be closed off. The vector has to be closed off, but there's a slight arch here. So we're going to use the arc tool, draw arc tool. We're going to click here. Let me zoom in. Let me get really up close and personal with that so you all can see it. We're going to click here for the left side of our arc. We're going to click here for the right side of our arc, and our pull up here, we're going to follow that curve, right? Once we do that, we're going to take and join that together as one closed shape. And then the stuff in the middle, I do not need. Okay, so that's that point there. Over here, this left side and this right side has to connect together. Because remember now, this is hidden by, it goes under that ring, right? So we have to close off the vectors accordingly. We have the top part. This is all hidden by that ring. And we have this bottom part here. So we're going to take our arc tool. Let's get up close and personal with this, so everybody can see. We're going to click here to connect to that end, over to here to connect there, and we're going to pull up and match that arc there, that curve. And then we can join 1, 2, 3. We can join those 3 vectors together as 2 open vectors. So right here, I missed my point. So I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm going to bring it up to the end there. I missed it. That's why it was 2 instead of 3. I missed it again. Lord have mercy. Let me do that again. Node editing. Drag that node. Get it. Zoom right in there. Perfect. All right. I missed my end. That's why it did not connect together. So let's go and join those 2 as 1. They should be 1. And then I can get rid of let's hit delete that. All right, so now I'm left with this basically kind of a rough outline of a skeleton of a star. And what I need to do now is start connecting the dots, point A to point B. Now we can't just select everything and go connect. We have to select one vector, select a second, and join it. Go to the next one and join it. Go to the next one and join it. You got to work your way around. So I'm going to just go right to left is fine, doesn't matter. I'm going to select this vector first. Hold the shift key down and select this vector. And I'm going to join with a straight line for that connection. Now I'm going to hold the shift key down and click on this vector and join with a straight line for that connection. Come down and hold down that shift key and select this vector and join with a straight line. Come around, hold down that shift key and select this vector and join with a straight line. And work your way around. Join with a straight line. Join with a straight line. And on this one, when I have this selected, it finishes, starts and finishes, so I can just click join with a straight line twice. Once, twice. Now, I have the vectors that I need to build the star. Okay, I have the vectors I need to build the star. So that is my star vectors, and now we have that. So if I came in and turned on layer 1, you would see that we have the red line on top of the black here, but you can see we now have a vector to build upon. Okay? Cool beans. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, let's take a pause for a second and hit save to save our work up to this point. And let that save. And while that saves, let me answer a couple of questions here. Michael Meslick says, greetings, Laney and everyone. All good info. No really easy way around this. Stay focused and be successful. That's exactly right. Take your time, one thing at a time, and don't get too overwhelmed. you know, just attack it however, you know, whatever's best for you. Kevin Wilkins says, hey, Michael, how you going? And Michael's, okay, and I'm late. Keith, what are you doing being late, man? How you doing, Keith Kessler? It's good to see you. All right. All right, cool beans. So the next step is we can start looking at things that are insignificant in our build and stuff. And so sometimes, not everything, not all the time and everything, but sometimes little things that don't belong or that's trash, that's oversight or something, they're going to be insignificant in this full overall model build. They might be somewhat significant in a V-carve, but right now, if I were V-carving this, that little speck right there, that is, in my opinion, trash, right? So I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay. Otherwise, this is a fairly clean vector. That was a mirror image, one to the other, so the trash is over here as well, right? And so as far as like cleanup is miscellaneous trash and stuff, really that's really it. That's really all there is to it as far as the trash is concerned. All right, now each of our vectors here, so the ring vectors, right? So we have this ring vector, which is the top one that I have selected here. And it's hard to see, but it's in pink and it's selected there. We have this one here. Now this one, this ring, or this vector, actually is kind of part of the leaf too, right? It's drawn itself into this leaf. And so you'll see when we start building the shapes how that affects it and everything. But nothing to clean up there. It is what it is there. That's good. Over here, it should be the same way. If I select this vector, you know, that outer boundary of the leaf is there. And that's good. This inner boundary here is fine. That's going to be one of those cutouts. Now, this could technically be a cutout, or it could be what I did with the customer. What he wanted to do is we lowered that down when we were building the model. It wasn't as high as the rest of the model, and it was a place for him to V-carve like badge numbers and stuff like that and everything, and that's, you know, that's an option. All right, so right now everything appears to be clean. The only thing that is not clean is this vector. If I have to build this shape up of these little, think about the model being built in here, okay? These little things are raised up. There's a little decorative flourish, and the model, the component, the meat of the wood is this little swirly part, the part here. This is the meat where my mouse is, right? Well, the way the vector is created, if I were to build a shape right now, if I were to build a shape of this, and I'll just do a flat shape, and I'll go an 1/8 inch tall just for example purposes, and I build this shape up, you're going to see that it doesn't fill in the part that's supposed to be raised. It fills around it, right? So when we go and look at the 3D, we have this, you know, it's around, it's not actually the shape that's raised up and everything. So that's a no-no. We've got to clean up and reconnect those vectors properly. So that's going to be what we do next. So just like we did before, and let me delete that component because I don't want it in there. Delete, keep things clean. So the next step, the next phase of this is we are going to clean up those vectors. And just like we did before, we're going to make a copy of everything, keep what we want, delete and get rid of what we don't. So a new layer. This is I'm gonna call this the decorative flourish detail. I'll call it like a flourish. I don't know if it's really technically a flourish, but I'm gonna call it the deco flourish detail layer. And I want to take everything, and let's turn off, we're done for right now with the main star vector. We'll turn that off, keep it hidden for now so it's not in the way. We just want to have this. and we're going to copy this over to that Deco Flourish layer. Let it do that. All right, I'm going to be a little southern here and drink some sweet tea out of a mason jar. Hold on a second. Oh my goodness. Good stuff. All right. So now we're going to, once again, we're going to turn off layer 1, layer 0, and the main star layer. We're going to turn that off. We're going to make sure that the Deco Flourish layer is the one that's active. It's bold. And when I'm clicked off of the layer window, I can read the word up here, Deco Flourish layer. That's the layer we're in right now. So on that layer here, we're going to get rid of what we don't want, keep what we do. Okay? So I'm going to do that right out of the gate so I'm not dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. What I don't want is I don't need the outside boundary. I'm going to get rid of it. I do not need any of this thing that is not part of that flourish. So the word deputy here, 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 any shape that is not that Deco Flourish, I am not keeping. All right, so this circle can go away. That circle can go away. That. All of this inner stuff here. Again, keeping what we want, getting rid of what we don't. All right, get rid of all of this. Over on this side, same thing. Get rid of all of that. And getting rid of this. And okay, so this is the flourish. Now, this flourish, the connection, these parts that are, that need to be connected and closed off are not. It's opposite of that. So we're going to cut the vector where we need to cut it, and we're going to connect vectors together to close them off. And we're going to create kind of when it's all said and done, we're going to have multiple closed vectors, but they're going to be the little flourish only. When I click on it, if I build a shape on it, it's going to be built on the inside of that. Some things are missing that we're going to need, and all of that good jazz, and you'll see how we do that in just a minute. And so what we need to do is start somewhere, right? So I'm going to start at the top, and then we're going to work our way down left to right, right to left. I don't care, just one section at a time. Work your way around, okay? So up here, these lines are not part of this flourish. This flourish gets cut off, okay? And we have these, particular shapes and everything. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into node editing mode. We're going to cut the vector on this corner here. And over here. And we're going to hit delete to get rid of that upper part, right? Now, this shape here and everything needs to get closed off in a manner that, it fits kind of the rest of the theme, the way these shapes are designed and everything. So we have basically what we're looking at, this segment right here, this segment that we're looking at is essentially this segment right there, right? So you can see that it has this loop comes up, connects, there's a small loop, and then it comes up and it connects, and then it closes around, right? So it's essentially that loop right there, like one of those little segments. That's what that is. Okay, so we have this, that comes up and kind of connects, if you will. So what we're going to, and it's not 100% exactly that, because there's a little shape in there that doesn't have that, but still try to follow the theme to the best of your ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the arc tool, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to snap there, and I want to be on the end of that. So I'm going to hit the escape key because I missed that altogether. Make sure your smart snapping and geometry snapping is on, but I'm going to connect there. I'll move that in just a minute. I missed that mark again. And I'm going to come over here and connect to this one. And then, I'm going to kind of figure out what my curve is going to be. But that is what my thinking tells me, to create and finish off this shape. But it's actually not correct. Okay? And I'm taking you through this. This is the mental process. If you were looking at this, and the reason why I'm taking this, I'm taking you through my mindset and how, like when I'm looking at something, how I discover, oh, that's actually not right. What we have to consider with this top part, really this top part kind of alone, is that this part is under this ring. Okay? There is a ring, remember that virtual part that comes right here as an arc, when on that one piece on the star. Let's turn that off and turn that on. That arc right there, right? And so connecting this as an arc here, it's a no-no. We can't build that shape up because it's behind that ring, if you will, right? So what we actually need to do is we just need to connect these ends here a little differently. So let me turn that layer off. And what we need to do instead of this, we actually need to come in, cut this vector on the corner here, get rid of that, it doesn't belong, come over here, cut that on the corner, get rid of that, doesn't belong. Here, this line goes away. This line right here doesn't belong. And we got a lot of nodes to deal with, so we got to kind of cut it on the corners. Instead of just right-click and delete span kind of thing, we've got a lot of different nodes in there. So we've got to kind of just deal with it and find your end, what would consider to be your end points. So the end of this line before it transitions into this line. And this goes away. This part connects, joins with a straight line. That closes that off. Over here, come over here, cut this, find the other end of the line. It's only one node to deal with, good. Cut that there, get rid of this span in the middle, delete, and this vector, join with a straight line, closes it off. Now here, this remaining vector, join with a straight line, close it off. Because that's going to be, our arc and everything's going to be in there. And you'll see when we actually build the part. But that closes off. Now we have, if we were to select this and we look at there, we have 5 closed vectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is done. It is closed off. Let's go to something that might be a little bit easier to visualize. On this one, this straight line goes away. So let's go into node editing mode. Again, we need to we can't just right click and delete span. We got all these bunches of nodes to deal with. So we need to, find your corner points and everything. So we're going to come over here and cut the vector over here. Get in on that corner and cut the vector. Over here on the other side, cut the vector. And one more time, cut the vector. Now that line travels all the way down over to here. Find that corner. Bunch of nodes bundled up, but find the corner the best of your ability. It's the one that's going to be the last one on that edge. Travel over to here. Cut the vector. All right, now on this one, these outside boundaries, delete, and then we need to connect these ends together. So I've already cut this vector here, but it doesn't look like one side of it did not cut. So it cut there. Let me make sure it did cut there. And over here, I know I cut this one. Cut the vector. Okay, now it's cut. All right, we're going to get rid of that. All right, so here, there's a part of the badge, the star, that comes right through here that cuts this off. So this is going to be a, we will select, let's go here, this and this, and I can join with a smooth curve, or I can join with a straight line. It kind of depends on what is, you know, coming into here, right? So it's going to be more of a straight line from here to here instead of a curve. Right? Because that curve comes right into where it does not belong. You understand what I mean? So Control Z to undo that. And this is going to be select here to here. And it's going to be joined with a straight line. Up here, these two are going to be joined with a straight line once and twice. So now that is 3 closed vectors. Okay. So just so you know, now when I go to build the 3D model shape, when I go to build the shape, it's going to build in that, and if we look at it in the 3D view, we're going to have that little decorative flourish. Now we're going to build it with a little bit of detail and all that stuff to it and give it some angle to the edge. You'll see how we do that. But that's what we want. We want that little vector to be raised. Okay? So undo that. Let's close this and delete that component. That's trash. That was just an example. And that's that's our end game. That's our end game. The whole purpose of this is to create those closed vectors and everything. Now, pretty much this is a mirror of this here, and my project is centered. Okay, I could take this object right here and I could mirror it. Let me zoom in nice and tight on this so you can see this. I could take this object here and I could mirror it, flipping it at about job center, creating a mirrored copy, flipping horizontally. So it comes over here and you can see that it landed right in spot there. So I don't have to do a whole lot of trimming and cutting and all that stuff. I could actually just remove this, take this, and mirror it over there, right? Why draw what you can copy, right? That kind of thing. It's not always going to be that easy and all, but That's what it is. Okay, now this one, a little bit different. This one is going to be connecting to here, to here, to here to close off this circle. So we're going to go into node editing, and I said a little bit different, but no, that's exactly what we're doing here and everything. We're going to come in here, get into those corners. Again, zoom in, get it in there, and cut that vector on that corner. And on this corner, we're getting rid of the little pyramid, if you will. When I say the pyramid, this top part here is not part of it. We're just keeping that line. Over here, cut the vector. All of this can be done in Desktop and Pro. All of this vector work and stuff. Cut the vector. And again, get rid of that. Over here and here, same thing. We got to cut the corners. So get into those corners. Get in there, get in there, get in there. Zoom, zoom, zoom as much as you can. And right click and cut the vector. And at the other end of this line, the other end, it comes down and around. I'm coming all the way to here. Zoom, 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 zoom. Cut that vector. And that straight line goes away. Okay, over here. I think I've already cut this vector. No, I did not. All right, zoom in, get in there as tight as you can. Cut that vector. And then all the way to the other end. Got to follow it all the way around, all the way down, all the way to here. Zoom in, cut the vector. Now that long line gets deleted. Now before I go moving on down here, I'm going to finish what I started up here. Okay, now let's start at the end here. I'll just show you, what we're connecting now. So this and this have to connect with a nice smooth curve. So we are going to join with a smooth curve. Okay, a little bit of a hump there. We can fix that. But let's go over here, go there to there, join with a smooth curve. Funky little hump there. No problem. We'll fix that one too. And join with a smooth curve. All right, let's go in and node editing and let's fix our curve. This funky one, because of the nodes and everything, created this funky, curve and all. And we're just going to turn this into an arc. Not that big of an arc. Not that small of an arc. There we go. To close that off. This one here. With an arc. Bring it down just a little bit. And over here, when we join with a smooth curve, it creates a Bezier curve. I'm changing it from a Bezier curve to an arc. And I'm bringing the arc down just to its natural curve and closing that end off. Okay, so that end's closed off. Now working my way over to here. This is going to connect to here with a straight line. So go in and cut that vector. On this side too. This is the most tedious of this design. This is the most tedious part of the work. And once it's done, then it's all kind of fun in building the model and everything. This is the last vector edit that we have to do. Okay. All right, so now this shape comes up into here and then around and down to down here and everything. But let's go over here first, because this is kind of part of that, you know, that shape we got to finish off here. So we got to come over and get into that corner, cut that vector there, up to here, cut it there, and then this is actually not going to get used. That's going to get removed, and this all the way down to here. Let me see here. All the way down to here, should I say. Cut that vector. So that straight line, not the curved line I'm on, but this straight line right here. That straight line right there, delete that. Okay. All right, let's close this up. So this to this, straight line. Straight line. Oops, hold on. That to here, join with a straight line. Close that off. So that closes that off. We'll come back to these two in just a minute. Let's work our way around here for a second. This, node editing, cut it on the corner again. We're getting rid of all the straight lines. We're keeping the curves that go around and all, but these straight inside vectors, they get removed. All right, hit the delete key, get rid of that. One more thing over here. All right, so this one up here on this corner, cut the vector there, and then that travels all the way around over to here, and we cut it over here. All right, so now I should be able to hit delete and get rid of that. The only thing I'm left with is the flourish, right? That's what the goal is. Now, once again, when I get here, you know, side A and side B should be pretty much a mirror of one another, right? So once I get one side done, rather than having to go through and do the other side, I should be able to just mirror it over. We'll test that theory in just a second. Let me finish closing off the vector, and we'll see how we go. All right, so to close off this vector, we're going to take this vector here and this vector here, and we're going to join with a smooth curve, and it's going to close that off there. Okay, don't need to do anything with that one. That one actually curved properly. So that tracks coming over to here. We've got this one here and here. Join that with a smooth curve. Nice. That comes around, and this one also join with a smooth curve. Whoa, that curve's a funky curve. So we'll go in and into node editing. We'll take this curve that was created and turn it into an arc. And then I'll pull that arc down. To its natural curve. Okay, so now that, if I select this side here, and I look at my, oh, one more, and I look at my join tool, I should have closed vectors. So I do have 26 closed vectors selected, so that one's closed. Now, I'm going to group that together. I'm going to hit G to group that together. And if I mirror that over, fingers crossed, it's going to be exactly the same. So it's going to be a time saver for me. So let's mirror that. Flip horizontally, create a mirror copy, flip about job center, flip horizontally, and boom. It landed exactly where it needs to, right? Yay for me. So what that means is I can Control Z to undo that. I can come over here to my node editing, and I can cut this vector here. And there. And I can delete all of this. Mouse is giving me a little bit of a headache. All right, and I can mirror that over. Right? So now I'm happy with that. Save my time and everything. Now all I have to deal with is this bottom one and then these two parts right here. These two are going to require just a little bit of extra drawing, so that's why I'm leaving them for last. And before we do that, I'm going to hit save all that work, right? And I'm going to come over and answer a couple of more questions. Let's see here. We've got Gary Wolf, another interesting episode. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Steve says, great project, excellent video. Thank you. Wait till we get into the modeling part. It's going to be really fun. And Polly, I'm going to have to re-watch this. I jumped in on to Aspire finally. Great. And I must step away. Hopefully I'll return. All right, Sylvia. All right, cool. All right, so here we go. Now on this one, we are going to, again, get rid of the straight lines. We're only keeping the, the flourish part, right? So we're going to go into node editing, and we're going to cut the vector here. Actually, all the way to this corner. Cut the vector. And let's go back to this corner too. It's actually this corner that gets cut. All right, and so we're going to get rid of that straight line so that we're left with this. Now it's a straight connection, a straight line connection from here to here and everything. And essentially what we can do is, the way that this curve is and all, we could go in and connect using an arc from here to here and just follow this natural curve. In order to do that, I need to still cut things loose. So we're going to come over here, and on our corners, same thing, nothing changes. We're going to cut the vector on both sides. Cut the vector. Over here. That stays. That connects with that. So here on this corner, we cut the vector. And here. So that's going to connect with that. That's going to connect with that. This is going to connect with this. All right, cut the vector all the way over to this corner. Following around to here. Get in there, zoom in, get right in there on that corner now. Very important that we, do our best to get on that corner. All the way to our last one here. Okay, now what we have is we have a series of loose vectors. So this is cut free from this, which is cut free from that, that, and that. Keep that in mind, okay? What we're going to do now is we're going to come in with an arc tool, and we could do this one thing at a time, join with a straight line, join with a straight line, that kind of thing, but I actually want to have that curve to it. That's why I'm doing it this way. I'm going to take my arc tool and I'm going to snap to the end here. I'm going to snap to the end here, and I'm going to pull this down and snap to the center of that line there. So I have this arc that follows that, right? I'm going to come in and delete my, my single vectors that, that need to get cut free and everything. So I'm going to come in and select all of these. And if I turn this one off, you'll see, turn that one off. You should be able to see these pink highlights still. It's hard to see on the screen, but you should see that my little line segments are all selected. I can now hit the delete key. That gets rid of them. So that way all I have is just this one thing here. And I can take my scissors and trim that. That connects that. Trim that. That connects that. Trim there. That connects there and there. All the way over to here. Right? So that closes that off and connects that. Cool beans. All right. So that leaves me with these here. Now, these, we're not going to try to redraw a shape and all that. They actually get connected with a straight line, so they're actually easier than what they look. It's just there's a lot of weird stuff looking, here and everything, and we got to, try to decipher, what is actually one of these shapes, in here kind of thing. And what we're going to do is this line is going to connect here to close off. This is going to be open, and this line is actually going to connect over to here to create the little curve. This line will end up connecting over to here, and you'll see here. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go to node editing mode, and we're going to cut the vector. Cut the vector. Come around. Cut the vector. Zoom in, get on that corner. Okay. Get on that corner. Okay, now this part right here is not going to be part of the flourish and all. It goes away. This part, not part of the flourish and everything, it goes away. That leaves only this. This part here will go away, and that leaves this. So these straight line there, straight line there. So I can join this and this with a straight line. I can join that and this with a straight line. It did it down there, but that's okay. We'll clean that up in just a second. Let's join that. Okay. So that'll be that. And then this, let's go to node editing mode. This straight line, we're going to delete that span because it actually doesn't go there. This is going to, this one, let's get out of the node editing for a minute. This to this is going to be joined with a smooth curve to create that curve. And this, let's go into node editing. Cut the vector here and here. This and this will join with a straight line. Keeps wanting to connect here. Let me join these two together first. Okay, one more time. That and that will join with a straight line. There to there. And that's what that shape is going to look like. Now, once again, I should be able to mirror that, flip horizontally, and it land right there, right? So great, good, wonderful, all that jazz. I can delete this, and I can mirror that. Wonderful. So this is my deco flourish detail. Holy camole, ladies and gentlemen, right? That is the most tedious, the absolute most tedious part of this design, of this particular design, this badge. That is the most tedious part, is getting that flourish to where all of these vectors are all closed off and everything, so that when I come in here and I build a shape off of this, we'll go with a little 10-degree curve. But when I build that, let me ungroup that and ungroup that. Let me verify that all the vectors are closed. Select all open vectors. All right, we still have an open vector that did not close properly. So let's fix that. That's why it wasn't, the model did not want to create, because it was telling me there was a problem. So we're going to go to node editing. And what I'm looking for is typically the opening and the closing generally happen around the green node. And the where one line meets, the beginning and the end meet, right? So if I look at this, there are we got other, bear with me. If I select this, this is one vector here. It's not connected to this vector. So we have two vectors selected. We need to close them. So we click the join tool, and it will now connect them together. So just because we did a join with a straight line, it didn't quite close it. It left a little bit of a gap or something. So now when I right click and select all open vectors, there's still one more open vector, and trying to locate it right now, I don't see any pink on the screen. But here's a key thing. I just right-clicked on the screen and said select all open vectors. I selected the open vectors. So now I should be able to come up to my magnifying glass that zooms in to the selected item. It's the magnifying glass with the pink dot line around it. When I click on that, it will zoom in, and there is nothing there, but it's showing that there is a vector somewhere. And because it zoomed in to somewhere in here, which is such a small, insignificant vector, then I'm just going to simply hit delete. It's not important to me. If I can't see it, when I zoom into it, if I cannot see it, because it zooms right into it, that object is front and center. If I cannot see it here, and that's not it, that's my, 0, 0 line. If I can't see that vector visually, then it's insignificant. So I'm going to right click and hit delete. And I should be able to go select all open vectors, and there be no open vectors in the design. Okay. So now if I were to create a shape on this, which we're not quite ready for that yet, but if we were to build the shape on this, 10 degrees, 1/8 of an inch, apply. It's going to build that shape on that little flourish and everything. Wait for it. And while we wait for it, Brooks Martin, thank you very much. I appreciate that super chat, bro. You have no idea. Kool-Aid Brooks, thank you guys again. All right, so now, wait for it, wait for it. almost there. It all right, uploading the model. All right, so here it it did not create the model. It went through the process, but it did not create it. That's an issue. There's something that that's not allowing that to happen. So what I'm going to do is let's piecemeal this a little bit. I'm going to select this upper section here. And let's see if it builds that component. Okay. All right. So maybe, let me see. Let me turn something off here. Let's do with a flat. I still want to preserve internal corners. It might be that preserve internal corners. But let's, instead of a curved profile, let's try a flat profile. And let's see if it builds the flat. Okay, it does. The part, so it's got to be flat, or it's got to be a little bit lower curve. It did not, it had no, there wasn't enough meat there for it to build a curved profile. So that being said, I can reset that. That means blank it out. I can select all those vectors again, and I can do it as a flat and click apply. And when I give it its draft, which you'll see when we do the modeling and everything, then that'll give it some kind of curvature and everything to it when I smooth the edges and all. So that's what our flourish is going to look like. And in order to get that look, that's just without the edges and all, we had to do all that vector work to close off them so we could build up those little decorative parts. All right, cool beans. So now I'm going to delete that component, what I just built, that little flourish and all. I'm going to delete it because I want to build this up from its foundation. I want to build it properly. So that's going to be kind of one of the last vectors that we work with. So now on the flourishes here, let's make this a color that, could easily, stand out. We'll go with kind of a bluish purple. And if any of you guys and girls, and hey, don't be ashamed, everybody has, a lot of people do. If there is any, if you have any color blindness issues where you can't see reds or greens and it's hard, and if I select a color that you can't see, let me know and I'll change it. I have to do that often and everything. So just don't be ashamed or anything like that. It's nothing. It's color blindness is color blindness. Okay. So now if I turn on my layer 1 design, you can see that, that new flourish vector and everything there. Well, if I turn off the blue flourish vector, my old flourish is still there. I'm going to say you can either keep your original layer intact, the vector as it was imported, as your master. You can keep that intact, right? On its own layer, name the layer master or whatever, so you can have something to refer back to on. But we need to create a layer where our vectors, where we can get rid of what's bad and keep what we just created that's good. Right? We don't need to have a bunch of stuff overlapping. This is bad, all the bad stuff, right? I can't just have the good overlapping the bad, because that just meant no, we don't want that, right? So what we can do is on our, since this is still kind of our working, master here, what I am going to do is I will select this and I will right click and copy it to a new layer, and I'm just going to call this master, right? Master vectors. Now I'm going to turn that visibility off. I do not need it visible right now. And if we come in here, let it create it. Wait for it. All right, so if we come in here and turn off our original and everything, we go to our master vector, it's there, the whole thing, right? You know, as is and all. Original, not our cleaned up stuff and everything. It's all right there. Our star, our deco flourish is there. Our star detail is there, right? The word county that we typed is there in that layer 0. So on this master, I'm going to come over to the layers tab. I'm going to move that to the top of the list up here, and I'm going to lock that layer so it's protected. If I need to refer back to it, if I need to go back to it because I accidentally deleted something and, oh, shoot, where'd that go? I missed it and all, and I deleted like, 20 steps back, I can always go to my master and, fix it. No. Now, that's my master. It's protected. Now, back in layer 1, turn that back on. I want to delete my these vector flourishes, right? All of these vector flourishes. I'm not going to delete this and this because that's my banner, but I am going to delete that, and that. That's part of that banner on both sides. Up here. Now this one, yep, that too. I almost confused myself there for a second. That over here. Get rid of all that I just don't need it no more. Okay, now I can turn on my deco flourish layer, right? And there's my vectors for that. Okay, so that's that. My star vectors. The star vector still needs to be there, but I also still need, I'm not deleting anything else. I still need these other vectors for building and everything, but my star vector is there. Okay, so that red star vector is the star, and the counties there. All right. So this design has now been completely cleaned up with all of the things that I now have. All except for one vector I'm missing. Let me see. Am I missing it? Hold on. Bear with me a second. No, I have all the vectors. I was about to say, I'm missing one. No, I have all the vectors I need now to start building the model. So now it's 9 o'clock. We started at 7:15. What we will do is, just to get a little bit of modeling in, we're going to go to 9:15. So 10 more minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And that is going to be part 1 of the class. So it'll be 2 hours, 7:15 to 9:15. We're going to go 10 more minutes. And then we're going to be part 2. We'll finish this model off, and the and create the toolpath, the completion and everything. So what I need to know from you, put it in the chat. Majority wins on this. We do the classes every other Tuesday night. So not this coming Tuesday, but next Tuesday would be the next class normally and everything. If you would like to, hey Lainey, can you do one next Tuesday, like this coming Tuesday, to do the finish up of part 2 here? So we're not waiting 2 weeks. That's up to you. I do not mind doing that. I can do that. I just need I need everybody that is in the chat, that is participating and everything, Do we want to wait to the normally scheduled class 2 weeks from now, or this coming Tuesday to finish it off, to finish it up? Okay. Let me know in the chat. Majority vote wins. Okay. So there you go. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Don't bully nobody. All right, here we go. So we already have, if you remember now, we're in the modeling tab now. We have a level 1, which is our default level. Now I want you to think of levels a little bit like layers, but not really. Levels is a way to separate the different parts of our model, our components that we build. And when we have models, components, when we have components, I'm going to call them components. When we have our model parts, they're components. When we have our components in a level, they interact with one another, whether they're add, subtract, divide, multiply. Not just multiply is the thing, but add, subtract, merge, lower, merge, high. You know, they interact with one another in that level, you know, whatever we choose. Now, levels can interact with each other as well too. So I could have two models merging together in level 1. I could have two models merging together in level 2. But level 2 is actually added to level 1. And what that means is those two merged models in level 2 are going to sit on top of the two merged models in level 1. They're going to be added to the top of that model. Right? And so levels is going to be important for us. This design is going to have multiple levels, and they're going to interact differently. And then our components are going to be each part that we build of this model. Okay? So we have already built the foundation, the base. And again, to remember from the beginning of the class, we selected the outside most vector, that outside boundary, and we created a shape that had a curved profile, a 15-degree curved profile with a 1/4 of an inch base. That's that straight meat underneath. Base is always going to be that straight meat underneath, and then your shape height is going to be from the top surface where that shape starts getting formed. From that top surface, that top edge, that shape, that's your shape height. From that top edge down is the base height, all the meat and everything. All right? Okay. All right. Good. Keep those votes coming. We're looking like next Tuesday is going to be the one. All right. So foundation is done. That component is complete. Now we're going to start building upon that component. So where you want to start building and the shapes you want to start building, that's totally up to you. How you want to build those shapes in. Now, what I'm going to do is for the next vectors, I'm going to do all of the raised area ribbons, all the ring, if you will, the inner ring. So I'm going to select this upper vector here. I'm going to hold down the shift key and select this left side here, this bottom here, this right side here, and that's going to kind of, in a sense, complete that circle, if you will, right? Or the illusion of the circle. Now, I want this circle to be a curved profile again. I want the top of it to have a smooth curve to it. And I want it to have a base height. Now, on the base height, I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch. All right, so it's going to sit up 1/8 of an inch on top of the foundation. Okay, now the parts that I'm going to be creating are going to follow, because I'm going to add these parts to the base. I'm going to follow that curve of the base, but they're also at the very top of them, they're going to have a little bit of a curved profile too. So when I click apply, it's going to be no limit. I'm going to go 15 degrees again. I might make that 10, but let's go 15 for now. I'll see what, and I'll show you how dramatic, like, you know, why you don't want to go too high. When I create the parts, I'll show you like what a 45-degree, you know, profile looks like and stuff like that. But I'm gonna have 15 degrees, an 1/8 inch base height, no limit on the shape height, no limit. I want it to be a nice natural curve. I do want to preserve if there's any internal corners. I'll keep that checked. I think I'll keep that checked through the whole design. Keep that preservation of internal corners. It's going to be an add mode, and this is going to be my outer ring. I'll call it my outer ring. And we're going to click apply. Now what we're looking at is over here on the right. Okay. Notice how it only created the top. There. It only created that top. It did not create the others. That indicates that those vectors are not closed, they're open, and got to fix them, right? So this is what I'm talking about. The software it'll let you know when there's a problem and everything. So I'm going to hit reset on that to get rid of that shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and select my shapes. Again, those same 4 ones that kind of represent that circle. And I'm going to close out of this modeling tool for a minute. I'm going to go into the join tool, and it shows that I have 4 closed vectors. Well, it's not letting me build the shape for one reason or another, whether it be there's not enough meat and, you know, for the potatoes and all that, or whatever the case would be. For some reason, it's not letting me build the vectors. So I'm gonna do one at a time, and I'm gonna let the issue bring itself to light. So instead of doing all 4, I'm going to figure out one at a time what's working and what's not working. So let's go back to the model shape tool. Let's start down here on this one. I'm going to go into the model shape tool, curve profile, 15. Let's go 10. No, let's go 15. 15 degrees is fine. 15. It might be the preserve inner corners. We'll see. You know, we might have to check and turn that off. But for right now, I'll leave that. 1/8 inch base height, add, and this will be my bottom quadrant. If I spelled quadrant wrong, don't correct me. It's probably wrong. All right, quadrant. And let's click apply. Okay. That didn't work. So let's go back in and let's figure out why not. Let's turn off preserve internal corners. 15 degrees. No extra numbers or anything in there. Apply. There it is. So the preserve internal corners was, you know, it was not allowing me to create that shape. Now, because that presented itself, I'm going to assume that was why it wouldn't do it when all of them were selected. Process of elimination. I'm assuming, and it's rather than building these components individually and having to put them together later and all that stuff, I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to go back to having my 4 vectors selected. I'm going to make sure that preserve internal corners is turned off. And I'm going to rename this back to my outer circle. And I'm going to click apply. And there we go. Okay, so that's going to be that. Cool beans. Now, how thick and how big and how, whatever is all up to you. The reason why I'm working with 10 and 15 degrees, let me enlighten you a little bit. Let's change this 15 degrees to 45 and click apply. Okay. Now, if you look, I have these pillow tops. I don't need that much pillow or curve or anything there. I don't need that much of a dome, if you will, and everything. And if I went 75, of course you can imagine what that would look like, right? So it would be, extremely pillow topped, right? So that's what we don't want and everything there. So all I want is a nice subtle curve. And for me, it's going to be, this one is going to be 15 degrees. My letters, when I do the words, they'll be 10 degrees and stuff like that. But 15 degrees and apply. Just a nice subtle curve. So that's the extreme, okay? All right. All right, so we went 3 minutes over. So let's build 2 more little components, the 2 leaves here, and then we'll save everything, and then we'll be to be continued tomorrow. All right, so click on the button that says Start New Component. Okay, so the next component is going to be the internal leaves. Here, that. Make sure nothing else is selected. Like, like I accidentally grabbed these circles. That's not part of what we're doing. That's the flourish. But make sure that I got everything selected that I want to be selected. This one is missing it's missing one of these shapes here. I'm going to hit G for group. That way I don't have to reselect them individually. I can just click on them. And this one's missing one of its shapes. So I'm going to hit U for ungroup. I'm going to hold down my shift key, turn that off, and I'm going to hit G for group to group the majority. I'm going to take this. I'm going to hold down the control key and I'm going to drag. Oops. My mouse is not liking the drag today. I don't know why. All right. Let me see if I'm missing. Oh, no. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm an idiot. That's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mirror to the other side from this one. Ungroup. Turn this off. Group, so I don't have to reselect all that stuff. This one here, I'm going to mirror, create a mirror copy, flip horizontally to the other side, and put it right back in there. See? Okay. That's why I like these symmetrical designs. Okay. All right, one more time. Let's select my group. I'm going to hit letter U for ungroup. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to add in that leaf and this leaf. I'm going to hit G to group that back together so I don't have to deal with it later. And that shape is going to be a curved profile, 15 degrees I'm going to go. But now, remember, from my foundation, these little banners were 1/8 of an inch tall. I want my leaves to build up taller than that 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to add some height in here, and for me, I'm going to make it 3/16. So I'm going to give it another 16th. 0.1875, and I'm going to click Apply. Okay. Let it build that. Okay. Now, these shapes and everything, that straight wall, this is the last thing that we're doing for the night. That straight wall and stuff, it calls for some, rough edges and all. So we're going to add a draft to it. Now, when we add a draft to this, the model's going to blend in with one another, and it's going to look all funky. So they are going to have to end up merging together, and that's going to require us to do another level. What I mean by that is follow me here. Let's close this tool. This is the last thing, I swear. We're going to turn off the base foundation and our outer circle, so the only thing that is visible, is these little leaf petals, if you will. The reason why we turn everything off is because when we add a draft, it creates a draft on the visible component. The visible component. So I don't want anything visible but the items that I'm drafting. So I'm going to create a draft, and for this, I'm going to go pretty extreme. So I'm going to go 22 degrees on the draft, and what that's going to do is it's going to create a 22-degree angle on the sides of the base of these shapes. You see that? Okay. Now, when I close this, if you look, it created the model with draft. What it means is it took those leaves and feathers and it recreated that model, that shape, but it put a draft on it. So that means that the original component I can either delete or turn off because I don't need it because it's already modeled into this one with the draft. So I'm not going to delete anything. I'm going to turn it off. And you can go through to be proper, to keep yourself organized and everything. What you can do is give these components their, don't do that. Hold on. Edit, undo, delete. Give these components proper names. Instead of component 1, component 2, component 3, and everything, give them proper names. So these are the original outer wreath. That's what I'm going to call it. Wreath leaves. Okay. Now I'm going to turn that off because it's been redrawn. Now, when I turn on the outer circle here, now notice by default, this is the last bit of tidbit, when you do a draft, it recreates the model and it creates it as a merged component instead of an add component or a subtract. It defaults to a merged component when it creates that new shape. Now, when I turn on my original outer circle, that shape and everything, the way that these components combine, imagine, if you will, just bear with me, I'm going to change this combine mode to add. And with these two components kind of touching each other and things, it creates these weird anomalies on the outside edge. These weird anomalies. Let me see if I can kind of zoom in from a different direction. Come on over here. Come on, bear with me a second. My mouse is... These weird anomalies here on this inside edge and everything, because when two models touch each other, in a sense, like through their walls, when they kind of interact with one another, not touch each other, but when they interact with one another, if they're interacting as an add, the bottom model is the foundation and the top model is trying to wrap over that as an add, right? It's trying to, take the shape of what's underneath it. And when the shapes are somewhat the same or negatives or one another, it creates this funky anomaly. So these two items have to merge together and they have to be added to the foundation underneath. So what that means for me is I do need this component as a merge. So when I change that combine mode to merge and everything, that's all well and good how it merges with these, you know, the little box that's around it. But imagine if I was telling it to merge with the foundation, and I turn the foundation on, this part gets sunk into the foundation because it's merged. The parts are merged together, you know. So I can't have that. I need these leaves to sit on top of the foundation to be added to it, but I also need them to be merged with that surrounding banner. So that's why I create a new level, because this component is going to be on this level with that outer circle. Okay. Let me move the outer circle up there. Wait for it. That outer circle is going to be merged with that leaves there, but they are interacting with each other independently now. Those two items that are in the same level are acting independently with one another, nothing else. And it's the level, how the level is combined with the level below it, that's important. We need level 2 to be added to level 1. If I had level 2 merging with level 1, those two components would be sunk into level 1, right? They would be merged together. Can't have that. I need them sitting on top of that foundation, but I need those two models merging with one another independently, so they're on a different level. That's where level comes into play. Now I have these two components on one level, the base and everything on another level, and this level is adding to level 1. Level 2 is adding to level 1, but the models within that level, they're interacting and they're merging with each other. That's where levels comes in. And once you understand that, how levels interact with levels and how components interact within those levels, and once you get a good grasp on that, modeling, what we're doing tonight, is not hard at all. It becomes pretty straightforward and easy. So that is where we're leaving off. We're going to hit save. Let's put this into kind of a full view here. So let's go full view. Let it save first. All right, all right, all right. So it looks like this coming Tuesday, a week from today, is when we're going to finish off. And before we leave, as we're waiting for this to save, if you like this up to this point so far and you're finding it interesting, give me a thumbs up and, like this video. Give me a thumbs up and like this video. Okay, so this is where we're leaving off. All right, we've got our foundation and we've got our little banner sitting on top. And of course, I could, this could be much bigger, thicker. I can make these parts thicker, the base, higher and all that stuff. But when it all comes together as a whole model, when it's all said and done, because remember, I got a certain amount of material I got to fit in, whether it's a 3/4 inch thick piece of material or it's a, 1.5 inch thick or 1 inch thick or whatever. All these models, when I build them on top of each other and all that stuff, when it's all done, it has to fit within my material. If I build my model too thick with beautiful, glorious detail, and all of a sudden, that's like 3 inches thick, and I'm trying to get it into a 1 inch piece of material. Now I have to scale the Z height of the model down to fit into my 1 inch piece of material, and all of that detail that I built into it, I lost because I scaled it down and all that. I sacrificed all that detail. It flattens it out, right? I would much rather build beautiful detail in small components and everything to build one beautiful model that I can size up and size down without sacrificing too much detail, right? So you got to be mindful of that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're going to leave off for tonight. We will get back together this coming Tuesday. Popular vote was next coming Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. And we will finish off our modeling here. Hopefully you found the video interesting up to this point. And until next time, I'll see you soon.